agarraron aquí, hombre.
Right, so if you look at the big hardest part here is your rib. Here. Where those ribs end, this is here.
This is a chine bone.
Right, so it's from here down. As your ribs come up, here's your belly. Right, you see how the ribs go? And there's your belly. Depends on what they're going to do.
That's how I am. I'm scared of the fingers.
When I say level it out, like, you know, maybe they might have to cut out some fat to make it all even when it rolls up. So they're going to roll up from 202.
You want me to hit the music up?
A lot of times, you know, like when I do a porchetta, I'll do.
Ladies and gentlemen, hi folks. Sorry to interrupt a good time, but if you could kind of find your way around the table here and gather around. We have kind of a fun agenda tonight. We're going to, one of the things in our partnership with Niman Ranch, we're always looking to find new ways to sell a new product that becomes very affordable yet allows you to use great tasting pork, and certainly a porchetta is one of those. So we have a pork middle, and very fortunately, Carlos, one of our good chef clients from Cloud Catering, is here, and he has been pressed into involuntary service, but he certainly knows what he's doing, and he's a fan of the product and uses the product. So Sean Keefe represents Niman Ranch. He's a regional rep that works with Debragga and Spittler. We have a really wonderful working relationship, and I think part of tonight's educational process, see what we can do to use better, cleaner proteins in a way that's affordable. And that allows us to continue a really progressive movement in the food business. So I appreciate it, Carlos. I'm going to let you describe what you do and how you make this porchetta, because honestly, I'm going to watch because I really don't know how to do it myself. So I'm going to take a lesson, and if there are any questions during the processing, Sean can certainly kick in and help. Once we're finished that, we'll grab another drink, and by 7:10 or so, we'll sit down and we'll have a little more formal presentation. But enjoy, and Carlos, thank you very much. Really appreciate it, Chef. He was a TA at the Culinary Institute of America. He worked with Tom Schneller, who could be a little difficult. No, of course not. Thank you so much, Chef. I really appreciate it. It's very kind of you. Thank you.
All right, so I guess, you know, one thing that I always teach my cooks and the guys that I've always taught to butcher is really you got to analyze the product before you can put a knife into it. You know, the order comes in the door, and you know, at that point, you know, once we accept the product, we're also accepting the quality of the product, which our guests, especially Cloud, are really, they know us for our high quality product that we produce for them. So, you know, when we're talking about pork, like, you know, my background really is in garmager and doing a lot of terrine and charcuterie work along with butchering. And you know, when you look at this fatback on this animal, I mean, it's really gorgeous, right? I mean, it's I remember at school they used to talk about how you can't find good fatback, you know, good thick fatback that you could actually slice and use it in a terrine, or to, you know, use it to wrap a terrine or something like that. You know, when we talk about an animal like this, we can tell so much just by looking at that fatback. That's the first thing I look at. The next thing I look at is the marbling, the actual intermuscular marbling. Okay, this fat, this beautiful white wavy lines that run through the loin muscle. You know, which I've been familiar with Niman Ranch for a really long time, so it's a product that I'm super familiar with and I'm really happy with. You know, the conformation of the animal is also proportional. It's not like it's too fatty and doesn't have enough meat, or it's super meaty and not enough fat, which you do find with some breeds. So they've kindly chined this guy for me already, and they've also started peeling out the tenderloin itself. You know, the tenderloin, you know, the beauty of it is it's super tender. You know, most of our customers will know what a tenderloin is versus some of the other cuts. And some of the challenges with the tenderloin is that you don't have that much fat. You know, so when I'm peeling out the bones, and then I'll peel out the loin and show you how we build this porchetta, you know, when I get into the sections over here near the sirloin, you know, this fatback is a great opportunity to maybe pull that out and either use it raw on a slicer. You know, you freeze it, you slice that fat, you're able to wrap it around the tenderloin, or you could cure it like bacon. You know, we make our own bacon in-house with the Niman Ranch product, and you know, it's gorgeous. And then you could maybe take that shoulder or that sirloin, make that, you know, that cured process, and then wrap it around the tenderloin as well. You know, so put that guy over here. You know, even over here on this, right here, you know, all this, 100%. Like, look at that fat. I mean, that is something that you could totally wrap around that tenderloin. You know, I guess the name of the game is making money. And these days it's not just about making money, but it's also about making conscious decisions about what product you use, how you use it, and you go about it. You know, you can be the best chef in the world, but if you can't make money at it, nobody wants to hire you. You'd be a short-lived job. I mean, that's, you know, I'm 30 years old. You know, I've worked with some really old school guys. I'm super young. And I guess I paid attention to what they were talking about and listen, and you know, writing it all down, so to speak. So at Cloud, you know, everything gets used, nothing goes to waste. All of our leaf lard, any of the beautiful fat that comes from the inside, I mean, all this stuff goes into the terrine process of making sausages or terrines for any events. All of our bones end up in our stocks. We make all of our stocks in-house as well. All right, so what we're looking at here, the pork middle basically starts at the shoulder and ends around the sirloin, and it's literally the middle. So some of the way I attack it, basically the bone structure you're looking at is you have all of you have your breastbone here going into all your rib bones. They've removed the chine to make it easier for us to remove the bones, and you have a few bones trickling back here that we'll have to peel off, and you have a weird bone right here in the sirloin. This is probably the only trickiest part of this whole process, other than keeping your fingers out of the way. So what I like doing is I kind of like when you're a kid, you know, you kind of trace out the lines before you start coloring. So I'm going to pull out the skirt. The skirt is basically something that, you know, we'll use in sausage making, or you know, chef wanted breakfast or lunch. My butcher always gets points for that one, so he knows what's going on. So a big thing about butchering is really using your fingers before you use the knife. You know, I remember the first time in school breaking down a tenderloin, like I wanted to pick up the knife and just go for it. And my chef's like, whoa, take it easy. You know, there's a lot of things you can actually remove with your fingers. There's a lot of natural seams and fats that you'd be able to rip off before you even make a cut, you know. So I always, you know, I'm always examining kind of where everything is. You know, and I can feel that the bones end here, and then there's a little something that's there. You know, if I didn't know what that was, I would at least know there's something still connected here. In this case, I do know that it's cartilage, okay? At the end of those bones, you have some cartilage. So I could choose to come from the back of the ribs or from the front, from the belly section. I come from the belly section, and the reason why is, you know, that loin is really, once you pull the tenderloin out, that's the most expensive cut you have left in here. So instead of working from that side and potentially nicking it or something like that, I'd rather work from the other side and have a better chance of really removing or keeping intact, for our purposes, a really beautiful loin. So basically, I'm going to carve out, you know, using the bone kind of as my guide as I'm working through. Now, I like to make really short cuts instead of really long cuts so that I know that I'm on that bone. And now I start tracing it out. So I push on the meat. You know, meat cutting back in the day was really all about leverage and gravity. You know, that's why hanging beef was so popular, because the weight of the animal actually helped you in cutting the meat. So a lot of times I will do that, and you know, I make my cut and I push, and I see that bone popping up, right? That's really important. It also helps you stay on that bone. So again, I'm pushing. I'm, you know, kind of like filleting fish in a sense. I'm staying on top of that bone. You know, some barbecue guys would be like, whoa, whoa, whoa. chef, we want some meat on those bones to smoke. And we're making porchetta, so that I'll be like, okay, maybe next time. For our purposes, you know, we are merely, you know, we're trying to make a porchetta. You know, at Cloud, we do the same thing when we're making our bacon. You know, we do bring in a whole product. You know, and now you feel I missed some of those rib bones again. So I don't know how good you can see, but when I push up on that back end, it shows me exactly where that rib bone is. Now, one of the things I'm going to run into if the chine bone was here is this rib bone right here, this last rib bone, before I get into the vertebrae where the tenderloin would have been attached and where the loin is still attached. So now, about 3/4 of the way, again, push down, and the meat's gonna lift up. So, just to make a small incision, continue freeing it up. So, you know, it's pretty clean. This at Cloud will either one or two things. We'll either save a bunch of them and make ribs for staff meal. Some of the guys will take this, cut them down, maybe make a pozole, or we could fold this into our stock as well. So now I need to deal with the last real bone. You know, feeling I have some cartilage in here that I'll come back and get out now in a minute. So I told you that the sirloin end really is a pain in the butt. And I like removing it versus trying to actually bone it out. So it's the weird bone. It kind of starts here. So I need to get in between the joint. And one of the things I'm doing, I missed it a little bit. So that's your sirloin end. This is what I was referring to earlier with using something to maybe wrap that pork tenderloin. You know, you have that small, this bone in here is kind of weird because it's almost like a tripod. It's like this, and it kind of goes up and it comes down. It's a little more of a difficult cut, so I like to take it out just so it's easier for me to remove the rest of this. So again, using gravity, kind of pushing down, going to kind of feel where those vertebrae bones are. So just making sure there's nothing left.
Now, before you think we're crazy and we're just going to have you look at this and not actually get to try something, there is an already cooked porchetta in the kitchen that they're going to be bringing out. So while we finish the demo, you get a chance to actually sample some of the products. So didn't want you to think we're getting your appetite too soon.
Wait 4 days. Just wait 4 days.
That's fine, put it in a brine. I'll stay here.
I can't afford to pay 4 days of booze for the wait. Other than that,
So at this point now, we're at the stage of making some decisions. I don't know. I was taught two ways of doing porchetta. One being, you know, it's a pork belly that has a pork loin wrapped inside of it. It's tied, roasted, beautiful. The other way is with a sausage. I think tonight we did the pork loin,
Yeah.
right? So, you know, again, we're talking about making money, right? If we were talking dollars and cents, and this piece cost me X amount of dollars, and I know that this pork loin, this pork belly, is probably gonna put me maybe 20%, 30% above what I paid for it. Now, if I take this loin out and I make a beautiful sausage out of the leftover meat, I've just increased my profit margin on this product. And that's really the name of the game, you know? We're all buying the same product, it's just that some of us are a little more maybe creative at how we use it. And, you know, really sharing those secrets is kind of, you know, why I've been able to kind of learn this kind of stuff. But for all intents and purposes, this is a much bigger belly, I think, than that one. So we do still have a shoulder blade bone in here. So take that guy out real quick. Again, this is the same bone you'll find. Break down my hand. So all my bones, this is my usable, this is all my fat over here. So now, just because of the needle. Okay, I have to trim this down because for me to have the open slat on the bottom where it doesn't connect, it kind of bugs me. So all I'm doing is really creating more product that can be turned into a sausage or a secondary application beyond stock, right? Everybody can give the answer, well, yeah, I can go to stock, go to staff meal. At this point, we got that. It's like, what else can you do with it? Like, awesome, you can do it for staff meal. You know, now I'm just trying to refine the cut a little bit. This is great pork. I mean, normal animals, you don't really have to do this. Like, it's really thin in the belly. Like, look at the amount of meat that was there before I started removing it. I mean, this is amazing bacon.
Hey Carlo, what are some of the other applications that you'll use some of that meat trim for?
So, the typical in my kitchen will be sausage. We do a lot of sausage. We do a lot of terrain work. Something else would be, this right here can totally be pulled out. We do a lot of skewers. We have a lot of people who love, we take meat, we marinate it, thinly sliced, put it on a skewer, grill it, sear it. Maybe it's a braised meat. That could totally be used for something like that. In Brazil, this cut like this is made into matombre, where you typically use the beef flank steak, but you could totally do this with pork. Here, everybody knows all the classic beef stews and things like that, but with pork, you can do the same thing. The beauty is that, it's a shorter cooking time. You have to treat it a little bit differently and be a little more careful so you don't overcook it. This guy could totally be boned out, rolled up, just like we're doing this porchetta. Remove the skin, roast it. Yeah, maybe I'm Cuban, right? My Cuban background. I would marinate this thing in mojo overnight, roll it up, tie it, roast it, skin off, maybe skin on, right? Crisp the skin, just like we're doing the porchetta. Refrigerate it. Now put it on a slicer, thinly slice it, and make Cuban sandwiches, right? Or you take this bad boy and not fully cooked. Maybe it's raw and you marinate it in some some kind of beef rub, and you smoke it, right? And then you cook it, and now you have a smoked pork sandwich. Philly cheesesteak with pork. I'm waiting for it. It'd be great.
I think you just made it.
So, if you see, now I'm going to have a little bit more of a better connection because I pulled some of that meat out.
Carlos, that's really cool. Look at that.
All right. Jeez, this thing, yeah, all right. This is the biggest thing I've ever tied. All right. So, I'm going barehanded. I can't tie with gloves. So
Now, do you throw any herbs inside that porchetta before you roll it up?
Sure. So, butchering is one element, right? You could have somebody do this, right? The real question is, yeah, exactly. The real next question is, what do you do once it comes in house? And you know, we are of the philosophy of grinding and curing just about everything. Something like this, I would probably grind for probably 4 to 5 days, you know, or I would cure it for 4 to 5 days. And when I say cure it, I am 100% talking about a dry rub, right? You have wet marinades and you have dry rubs. You know, we are fortunate enough to be able to create a lot of different spice mixes from all over the world. So if I were to do this tomorrow, I would take a spice mix that I call poultry spice. Pretty clever. But it has a lot of fennel and peppercorns, chilies, things like that. Very Mediterranean. So we would 1% salt, this guy, and 1% spice. So of the total weight, we would do the spice mix, let it sit for 4 or 5 days, and then ask ourselves the next question: do we want to smoke it? Are we ready to cook? Maybe we are, or maybe we're not. Maybe we do smoke it, right? We, you know, we don't have to wipe off or wash off the marinade at this point. This is the beauty of using 1%. It's calculated. You know, it's going to take 4 or 5 days for it to actually penetrate throughout the meat. And then on the inside, I mean, there is 100% a massive mix of garlic, rosemary, thyme, maybe some fresh oregano or marjoram, some chilies. I mean, I would definitely go in the direction of, you know, Italy, because that's where the dish comes from. You know, some people may throw in some white wine, you know, rub it down with a little white wine, let that pellicle set, and then maybe smoke it a little bit. So it's really up to whatever you want. Some people may score the outside, you know, I believe kind of looks like that. Or maybe from the ties, it has the
That
kind
could
of
be from the
scores.
strings.
Yeah, so I mean, it really depends what you'd like to do. I mean, listen, if you bought a section of pork belly, you just want to do a beautiful pork belly, same process, you know, except we're going a step further. Yeah.
Would you score the inside?
No, what I tend to do is I will use a jacquard knife, and actually the marinade or the brine will get in a little faster. You know, if I was really concerned, maybe I would also maybe pump. If I was doing a wet marinade, I would pump the loin itself, maybe about 10% or so. So that's all right. So let's see if I can still do this right. So I do a butcher's knot. I can't show you. And the only reason why is because when I used to teach this at the culinary, because I was a teaching assistant, man, it took those 14 days for them to get it. It's kind of difficult.
That twist. I can't get the twist.
It's a right. You know what it is? I figured it out. I'm right-handed. My right hand.
I'm left-handed.
Yeah.
Try teaching it to some.
Even harder. My right hand needs to feel like it's in control, so I basically kind of fool it by letting it just pull the string on the bottom, thinking it's doing the job. So one string will come over, and then this string comes through on the bottom. Yeah? And then you do that same knot again, and then you're able to pull down. It's a slip knot.
This is good. We got one guy tying raw, one guy slicing cooked. I love it.
Kind of strong here. All right, so I'm gonna do that one more time because it broke on me. So, under, round. Okay, so now I come under, over, pull that little string through. So now I know I have a secure knot. I can do this exact knot all the way down if I want to. It's a little time consuming. So I'm gonna do more of a continuous knot. So folding it, I'm gonna go under 2 times.
I got a fireman over here who's been not demonstrating.
Oh.
No, it's okay. Thank you, yes.
You made that look a little bit easy, Carlos. I got to be honest. I'm not so sure I'd have it quite so simple of a time. So We're very much appreciative.
I have been very fortunate to have some amazing people to teach me, and I will never turn down an opportunity to show others.
Well, that's wonderful. And the cooked porchetta was prepared by John, a chef over at Huntley Tavern in New Jersey, a great account of ours. Does an awful lot of work with Niman Ranch, with a lot of great naturally raised ingredients as well. So could not be here tonight, but I want to really thank them for taking the time to cook and prepare this. And Carlos stepping in. This was Carlos. You know, the problem is, be careful what you ask for. Because now that I've seen how good you are at this, I may have we may have several additional conversations. I hope that's not a bad thing. Yeah. Thank you very much. So we're having a little sampling of the porchetta, so you can see what a great product you can make out of it. And I would, we have we're good here time-wise. Ask any questions you'd like. I'm sure Carlos and Sean from Niman can certainly answer them. And once again, Carlos, this was really
my pleasure.
Dude, thank you, man. This was really wonderful. And George is doing the carving. Good job, man.
There's on my you.
Oh, where's the social media person? It's been like hashtag crushed it. You know what I mean?
Hashtag it's only
I'm proud, man.
I know, right? Do you only use a continuous knot for porchetta?
No, I'll do it wherever it's appropriate. When it's something long, and I'm literally going to cut it off, it's not going to matter. Yeah.